Welcome to today's webinar on project management, getting started and beyond. My name is Ritiba Adeshola from Canada Consulting, Learning and Development and the unit. I'll be the host for today's webinar. You're all welcome. You're welcome to Canada Consulting. Before we go right into the webinar, I'm just going to give a brief introduction about Canada Consulting. So you know what we do and the services we render. So you're all welcome. So welcome to Canada Consulting. At Canada Consulting, we provide cost-effective consulting and HR services. And our mission is to provide professional services and business solutions while creating value to all our stakeholders. Our vision is to be the leading professional services company providing bespoke solutions in Africa. And our core values are team spirit, while customer experience, innovation, commitment, and excellence. So what do? We are into outsourcing, we are into business advisory, we are into recruitment, we are into learning and development, we are into financial services, we are also into background check services and HR consulting. So these are services, and you can reach out to us in case you want to outsource your staff, in case you need a training, in case you need to recruit to your organization. We are always ready and available for services like that. So before we go right into the main thing for the day, I would like to introduce the head of the Learning and Development Department. His name is Olulade Adedayo. He would just give us a brief about the webinar and also introduce the facilitator. So you're all welcome once again to today's webinar, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy everything that we have on this day.
All right, thank you so much, Adeshola, for that wonderful introduction. And I want to welcome everybody online right now. I want to welcome you to Canada Consulting. I want to believe that you are all here with your expectation regarding this free training. And I hope that, we're going to meet all those expectations at the end of this training. So quickly, let me quickly share my slide. So I hope you can see my slide. So
yes.
Yeah, so the topic today is project management, getting started and beyond. So basically, because project management is one of the in-demand courses right now, okay, globally, it's a very it's a course that every organization is actually craving for, and they're craving for skilled professionals in this area. Now, I have some few quotes regarding project management. Okay, now number one says that projects are the engines that drive organizations forward. Projects are the engines that drive organizations forward. So this quote was made by Harold Kersner. Okay, so there is no organization that is thriving today that does not have projects that are running, projects that have been successful in the past. So that's why it's very, very key and very important that we acquire these skills so that we can drive our organizations to success. And of course, it's not about organizations alone, it's about career. So I want to say also that projects are the engines that drive careers forward. Okay, so if maybe your career has been on a slow run right now, and you need something to just drive it, try this project management course. And I want to assure you that, your career would gain momentum. All right. So secondly, there's this quote by an unknown person that says that the success of a project depends on how well you manage the key constraints. And what are the key constraints? We have the people, the time, the cost, and the scope. Now look at those 5 constraints. If you're able to manage people, if you're able to manage the time, you're able to manage the scope and the scope of any project, I mean, you are guaranteed of success. And that is what we're going to learn here today. Okay, now the third quote says that the best way to predict your future is to create it. The best way to predict your future is to create it. That was made by Abraham Lincoln. Okay, so now how do you create something without embarking on a project? So it's critical that you understand the dynamics and the methodologies of implementing successful projects before you can create anything. Okay, so this is talking about effective project management. The best way to predict your future is to create it. All right, and the last quote I'm going to show us this afternoon says planning without action is futile. Action without planning is fatal. So that means planning is very important. Action is very important. So planning without action is futile, and action without planning is fatal. And these two are the embodiments of what project management is all about: planning and action. Okay, but well, I'm not the facilitator today. Okay, so I'm going to leave you in the hands of our head facilitator, Mr. Tony Briggs. And I'll just read his profile shortly before he comes on the screen. Now, Mr. Tony Briggs is an electrical engineering graduate of Yaba College of Technology. He also holds a PGD and an MBA in management, majoring in human resource management from the Lagos State University. Tony Briggs is a certified project management professional, a John Maxwell leadership trainer, an accredited management trainer by Center of Management Development, CMD, a fellow Institute of Management consultant, a Google certified digital marketer, and he holds a certificate in design thinking from the University of Virginia, USA. He joined Intima Consulting, a leading e-payment consultancy firm, as a consultant. I was involved in both implementing overseas-based e-payment capacity building workshops, as well as outsourced e-payments related projects, such as the Smart Card Expo for senior executives in the public sector and banking industry. So, I mean, this is, a practical project, project manager. He was the former head of training and development for Alpha Learning Strategic Partners to Learning Resources Group South Africa and NetG USA, where he was the lead consultant in implementing e-learning solutions at UBA and Zain, now Airtel, before leaving to become a business development manager at Profilance, a Miller Herman UK company who is into distribution and sales. Briggs has about 21 years of progressively responsible experience and has facilitated project management related courses in and outside Nigeria for organizations such as NNPC, Mobile, MPA, Lagos and Imo State governments, Nigeria Immigration Service, Heritage and Access Bank. He is a mentor for Tony Elumelu Foundation and Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. So if you are ready and you are prepared, please welcome with me Mr. Tony Briggs, who will be our facilitator today to take us on this webinar, Project Management Starting and Beyond. Thank you so much, and I hope that you are going to have a wonderful time at this webinar. So Mr. Tony Briggs, over to you.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I trust everyone's day went well. We're all experiencing a project at the moment, which is, I try to project my slide. I don't know if it's showing.
Yes, it's showing the first slide.
Okay, the first slide is showing. Okay, thank you. So, thank you so much, Kennedy. Thank you for the opportunity for me. I looked at a bit of the class. I could recognize one or two names. And so for me, just like he said, just like Tolu mentioned, he said one of the key areas you need to focus on when it comes to managing projects has to do with people. So I just want to believe that this webinar is a dialogue, and we would learn from each other, because one of the key things I always tell people, the day you stop learning, you start dying. So, and that's what makes project management very dynamic. Yesterday, I was outside, I'm based in Lagos, but yesterday I was doing a project with the state government, and it was my first time with them. And I told them, for this 1 week, it's been also a learning experience, working with different people and all of that. So before I start, please, can you please use the chat box and maybe put, maybe if they are particular, because we have like 30-35 minutes for this session. So in case maybe there are specific questions you want answered, my colleague Adeshola will help me with that. And also, please, what sectors is there in the room? I know I could see somebody from MTN, so that will be telco. And because project management, even though it cuts across, certain times in certain sectors, there are certain specifications. So if maybe you can just use the chat box and just maybe put maybe any particular question you want answered, and also please what sector you're based in. It will also help us in our discussion as we move on. So please just use the chat box and just put in either your sector and if you have any question. Additionally, you just also help me maybe read out some of those if there are any responses in that regard.
All right, I'll do that.
Thank you so much. Okay. So in a nutshell, it's a bit of an experience class. And listening to Tolu talking, what's a basic definition for projects? Now, and this is one, it says it's a series of interrelated and sequenced activities. Now, one of the things I would mention here is that you see, even though project management is sequenced, if there's any, I'm sure you have some project managers here, you will know that no project is a linear, it doesn't go linear. What do I mean by linear? If somebody is in school, he goes from year 1 to year 2 to year 3 to year 4. It doesn't follow that process. And that's why it is interrelated. And that's why one of the things we'll talk about during the 2-day training is how people imbibe the project management mindset, develop that agile capacity to manage these interdependencies that are involved in projects. Also, every project is managed, designed, and organized to accomplish a specific goal. And that's why one of the key things that determines success in project management is finding out what goals the project is meant to be achieved. And being in projects, there's also something I've also seen. I've also seen that certain times, apart from the written goals, there are the unwritten goals. What do I mean by that? A project sponsor, I've worked on a project before, and the project, for the project sponsor, it was a legacy project for him. Why? Because this project was taking place in his state. So, I mean, it wasn't just that for the organization, they had a goal, but for the project sponsor. And that's why one thing that is very critical for any success in project is for the project manager to be able to identify what are the goals, both written and unwritten. Also, a project is also happens within a time frame and also has budgetary requirements. So time, scope, and all of that. So in a nutshell, this is what a project is. And for me, what is project management? And this is the key things, because initially from my background, let me just explain, how did I get into project management? I was doing a project for one of the big IOCs. IOCs are international oil companies. And in course of the project, I know in these kinds of projects, they are based on milestones. And this was, it was an 8-month project. And when you meet a milestone, you get payments. Now, in the course of doing this project, the project sponsor changed. They transferred the general manager to another department. And I was waiting. I was like, okay, when do we? And as at this point in time, this project had reached the second milestone. So we as a team were waiting to get paid. And I got an email from this organization and saying, oh, Mr. Briggs, you're aware of the reorganization that has happened. And so this new person wanted to have a meeting with me. And so I got into the office and the lady welcomed me, asked me tea, coffee, water. And I was like being polite. I asked for tea. And she said, yes, I came in, I'm new. Can you tell me about this project? And I started and talked till where we had landed. And the next thing, this lady said, wow, this is quite good. But Mr. Briggs, you need to give me time to process what you have just said. And so can you just keep this cool till, and man, I was like, inside of me, I was at my second payment. I don't know who this might have happened to. I was at my second tranche payment, and the new project sponsor is saying, put it on hold. I got back that evening and I started, and this is what I tell people to improve your learning. When certain things don't happen right, I tell people it's a learning curve. And so I got home that evening and I sat down and said, Mr. Briggs, what happened here? And guess what I found out? I found out that I failed one of the laws of managing a stakeholder, because I heard there was a new stakeholder and I waited for the stakeholder to invite me. Rather, I should have been there telling the stakeholder, I need to see you. So instead of me going and meeting an informal face, I met a formal face. And that's why project management is the application of skills, knowledge, tools, and techniques. And if you see, apart from knowledge, which doesn't have a plural, because knowledge singular, knowledge is plural, every other thing has an S. Why? Because the truth is that in project management, it's not one size fits all. So you must keep updating your skills, you must keep updating knowledge, you must keep even your tools, your tool ranges, and even the techniques. Why? Because for any project to succeed, it must meet the needs and expectations of stakeholders for a project. Now, let me say some things. Most times when people see project management and they see that thing stakeholder, one mistake sometimes project managers make is they think that the stakeholders are outside the organization. You also have stakeholders inside the organization. A bit of my background is in engineering, and anybody who has an engineering background, you know that for you in engineering, when they say that, oh, this project, we have made budgetary allocations, for the engineer, he just assumes that he sends a mail and, oh, we have started, can you forward us 2.3 million naira? And he doesn't get a feedback. I don't know anybody who has, if maybe by show of hands, has had that kind of experience. You're working on this project, they tell you the budget is set, and funding becomes a problem. You know why? Because you haven't taken care of the internal stakeholder. I mean, I used to have clashes with my people. I always tell people there used to be a dichotomy between engineering and finance. I don't know if it's true, but I've experienced it. And my accountant, I went to my accountant. I said, Ade, what's happening now? We need money. At this thing, in the meeting, they said there's already a budgetary allocation for it and all that. And our accountant tells me, group head, says, Mr. Briggs, budget does not mean money. I said, what do you mean budget doesn't mean money? I don't know if there's any finance person here, but like I said, it's an open thing. I said, Mr. Briggs, budget doesn't mean money. I said, but you budgeted this thing now. He said, no, that's not how it works. If you need money, you need to give us time. I said, but it's budgeted. He said, no, in finance, it doesn't mean, it means there is an allocation. But that allocation doesn't mean it's on ground. It's like we've made provision. And when we have, what did I learn from talking with my group head accounts? I got to even now know that I was not only thinking, I was initially thinking, oh, stakeholders, oh, who are the customers and all that. But in projects, no, the stakeholders, you have external, you have internal. And one of the things I believe is that the essence of project management is prediction and prevention, and not recognition and reaction. That's why as we close out this session, I'll just talk about certain things about risk management. So the essence of project management is oh, what can go wrong? What do we prevent? Because the truth is that if you are in a project and what you didn't properly capture shows up, certain things happen in the project. Number one, you might end up spending more money. Number two, it can disrupt your initial plan and your initial flow. So that's why I believe the essence why people take time in project management is prevention and prediction, and not recognition and reaction. Now, this is a nutshell is why we have project management. I believe for some people here, you already know this, which is ensure customer requirements, eliminate reinventing the wheel, promoting, yes, teamwork and cross-functional, yes, to minimize the risk of project failure, and also certain times to slash that bureaucracy, you know. But when in my years of looking at project management, I want to say for me personally, these are the two things that is anchored on why project management. Number one is that I believe that life is a race and we must keep the pace. How? If you see, if you look at yes, life is a race because one, every project has time frames, when it starts and when it ends. And that's how life is. It starts when somebody is born, ends when somebody passes away. And now, so what does project management do for somebody? It helps keep you in pace. In any organization, one day I sat with the MD of an outsourcing firm and we did a review. And I said, because they were making money. And I said, you know what, sir, you only have one client. And he looked at me and said, no, Briggs, you have other clients. I said, sir, for us to be doing this retreat in this hotel, you have only one client. And so certain times organizations are in a circle, but they don't know that just like every circle, you go from initiation to closing. It's the same thing with products. Every product has a product circle. And just like I give a classic case, just look at this project called the Naira redesign. What has happened with that project? Because of what has happened, I'm sure everybody here, if you buy things from retailers, you begin to hear OPay, you begin to hear PalmPay, you begin to hear money points. What does that mean? Is that you see, there's always a race. And so for every organization, for you to keep being relevant, you have to keep initiating projects. The second thing I believe why we have project management is disruptions. And what happens is that disruptions will keep existing. And so I told somebody that project management is the antidote for disruptions. Because what happens is that when, something has happened, like I'll give you a classic case. I respect this company called 7up. During COVID 2020, you could see that 7up moved from 7up products and started bringing out Too Sure. Too Sure was all of a sudden became a household hand sanitizer. That's one thing why we need project management. So if you look at your organization and you're looking at the impact of disruption, the key word is what project do we need to initiate now? We're working with a financial service company because you could see what's happening. People are jackpine left, right, center. And so all of a sudden, the things you call employee value proposition doesn't hold water. The things you call, employee retention is like disrupted. So we're working on a project whereby we're like, okay, how do we minimize, mitigate the impact Jackpot causes this organization? So, I mean, it's a project integrated with knowledge management, key man risk, different layers. Now, maybe after the project, of course, an SOP comes out and it will create some level of stability for them. I'm sure you're having your projects. Okay, now these are, let me look at my time. Okay, I'm within time. Now, I wanted to ask this question. I think I've been talking for the past 10, 15 minutes. So I wanted to throw it open to the class. Additionally, I don't know if there are any things from in terms of sectors. So I have these two questions. Why do projects fail or succeed? And why is managing projects challenging? So I'll throw this open to the class. If maybe you want to unmute and say something, or you want to put it down in the chat box, will really be appreciated. Yeah. Why do projects fail or succeed? And why is managing projects challenging? Anybody who wants a view? Um,
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Yes, Adeshola, this is my name. My name is Emmanuel, and I think part of why, just to respond to the question that was asked, that why do projects fail? I feel part of the reasons why project fails could be included through changes in organizational priorities and also improper requirement collections, and that can also, change the face of a project line, and where project managers or project supervisors, project owners are within a particular, sector, and they can't, or they miss the priorities, the organizational priorities, the requirements that has to be collected, and also the goal, where of course every organization wants, the goal should be, let's get to the top of this project and finish it, and then hand over to the project owner. So I think if organization or individuals that are managing projects can set aside priorities, and also fine-tune requirement collection, which I feel requirement collection changes from time to time. So I don't know if that actually makes sense. Thank you.
very, very, very much sense. It makes, I hope you can hear me. It makes sense, especially this part where you said the collection of requirements. It's very, very critical. And listening to you, quite experienced in projects, because you will agree with me that certain times the goalpost keeps changing. The goalposts keep changing, and you see that, oh, one person believes, oh, let's do it this way, oh, and somebody comes, and you see there's something in project management called scope creeping, where somebody's like, no, it's not going to affect the project, but I think we should, the MD says that we should, yeah. So you see those things. Thank you so much. Okay, I don't know if there's any other feedback in that.
We have a comment in the chat box.
Okay, yeah.
As regards the question, so someone, Sonia Long said, for me, I feel the major reason why project fails is poor planning.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you.
Then there's another person, the last person, Sunday Gia. It says project fails if there are no proper monitoring and control.
Okay. Thank you. Projects fail if there are no proper monitoring and control. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for the feedbacks. Really appreciate. So we're all learning, and I hope my slides is still showing.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So what I just have there is, I'll just talk around the project failures, and one or two have been mentioned here. But you see, one of the things I have found out is that the environment change is the anchor on which failure happens. I'll give you a classic case. Like you see there, I captured inexperienced project managers. There's a particular project, as I was thinking of, I was preparing for this and I just started laughing. The gentleman in question was experienced. But guess what? The project team had, I'm not berating them, it had Gen Z people, it had Gen Z and some semi-illiterate people who were providing service. I mean, now the project manager, on paper, experience-wise, he was experienced. But this project, he had to be changed. Why? Because he could not manage Gen Zs. He was more talking at them, you're supposed to do it this way, and not willing to adapt. That's why I said environmental changes are critical. If so, while a project is on board, you have to watch what are the moving pieces. And of course, some of the things we captured for stakeholder management. And how does it affect in project management? Is that apart from the stakeholder mapping, like currently in Nigeria, there's this article I put there, how do you sell in an election year? And the truth is that because Nigeria is in an election year, it's going to bring up new players and retire certain players. So anytime you're working on a project, you must take recognizance of, oh, are we approaching a transition? Now, another part is unrealistic expectations. And I tell people this, conflict is part of life. So when I've been in project meetings, there was once when this project meeting, and I knew that something wasn't right. And I mean, before the project meeting, where there were discussions that, oh, this came up, that came up. However, we got to project meeting and nobody was saying anything. Oh, and I asked, when the meeting, I asked somebody, I said, oh, boy, you didn't raise that thing. He said, man, and later towards in that project, because that thing hadn't been resolved, as at when it was escalated, it cost money, huge sums of money. Now, of course, the other part is incorrect time estimates. That's why we tell people under promise and over deliver. And the other thing could be inadequate resource allocation. But one of the things that both drives project success and inhibits project success is team communication. And that's why one of the things during the training we'll deal with are the team dynamics, understanding how the project team dynamic works. Because you see, communication is like the lifeblood of any project team. And that's why certain times you see it in projects, you know, there are different methodologies. There is what is called RACI, which is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So how does the team dynamics, who are those that are with you? Who are you talking to? And all of that. Okay, this brings me to, there are different types of projects. You know, you have what I call easy and complicated. Now, someone said, what's the difference between an easy and complicated project? I always tell people this, what makes any project easy are, for me, two dimensions, competence and precedence. What do I mean by competence? If now maybe you're doing, even though it's a new project, but you are experienced in it and there's a precedence, all of a sudden that project becomes easy. But you see, and I'll talk a bit about complex project, but you see, when you have constraints, interdependencies, multiple stakeholders, and sometimes there's no precedence, it could be complicated. I remember once I was thrown into, we're building another branch in Imo State, and I was sent there. And first and foremost, I don't speak Igbo, and all of that. I mean, that project, 2 weeks, boy, that my first initial 2 weeks was something else. And it wasn't that I hadn't done something similar, but the truth was that the dynamics had changed. The people I was dealing with, the people I was working with, and all of that, it was like everyone is new and it's there. Also, sometimes a project could be, especially when I look at source of capital, like if there was this project that was PPP related, and now the government was supposed to bring funds, and I had to tell them, I said, look, it's better. And they were like, oh, let us start. I said, no, you need to wait that, because you see, when you're going to get money from public coffers, it follows a process. So I said the first thing, when we drew up the project plan, and I told them to retweak it and make release of funds the first thing in terms of tax. And somebody's like, at least we have some funds to start. I said, no, if there's no injection of capital from this public side, this project will be stalled. So certain times, and that's why the stakeholder management is key. When it's private, it's organizational, source of capital, and certain times it's mixed. It also depends according to project content, you know, ranging from construction, IT, business, you know. Certain times people say there are two kinds of project. Like in oil and gas, you have what is called a greenfield project, and you have what is called a brownfield project. The same applies in construction. What's a greenfield project? From scratch. You know, what's a brownfield project? Maybe a project that has to do things with remodeling, expansion, reconstruction. And so that's why in real estate, whenever maybe a developer is coming to take over or remodel a house, one of the things the foreman, the architect asks of is where is the architectural design of that house? Because you know, houses have pillars. So it's not just saying this is our design and we're going to impute it here, because it's a brownfield project. Then also at times, depends on who is involved. Are we dealing internal? Are we dealing external? And the objective, is it, we worked a couple of months ago, we were working with another oil company. We're working with their CSR team and their plan for the year. And one of the things we had to look at, because in the oil and gas, you have the Petroleum Industry Act. And in the Industry Act, and because, yeah, we had to tell them there's something in the Petroleum Industry Act. First of all, they're going to set up host community trust groups. But we had to mention to them, because the oil companies think that, oh, I give this host community 25 million for this year and that is it. And I had to show them a line that says that the host community can source for other forms of funding. And I remembered in that program, the head in that oil company said, Mr. Briggs, does this mean that after I give these guys 38 million, they can come back to me? I said, well, let's read those. So why am I saying this? The objective matters. Is it production? Is it? And now, what does this mean? Because you see, every organization, like I said, when there is a disruption, project management is the antidote for that disruption. So maybe you have staffs leaving. The key question is, oh, what do we do? What kind of research do we need to do? It's a project. What kind of outcome do we need to do? Like currently in manufacturing, because of the reduction in disposal income coupled with inflation, if you check across board, the production standard of quite some products have changed. Because one, we can't increase prices. So we need to go back and adjust production levels. All these are projects. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, a project should be 3 months, 6 months. You can have a 1 month project. You can have a 2 weeks project, and so on. Now, what are some of the trends as I begin to wrap up is, why did I talk about trends? The truth is this. If you're not aware, there's something in emotional intelligence called self-awareness. And so if you are not aware, the truth is that your decision-making process can be flawed. So some of the things that are happening now in project management, you have, I remember the PMI brought out a report. It came out a couple of weeks ago. It was talking about the pulse of project management, you know, some of the power skills and all that. But some of these trends are, I mean, everybody here, or some people have heard of ChatGPT. And I mean, I have seen some other artificial intelligence tools, and I did a report, and I told somebody something. I said, there's trouble. And he said, how? So I sent him the 2 reports, and I said, this one from Mr. Briggs, this one from AI. And the guy said, are you kidding? I said, yes. You know, so artificial intelligence. And so if you look at those AI tools, I did a video once, and somebody was like, wow, I like this video. How did you do it? I said, well, it took me like 30 minutes. He said, you're kidding me. I said, yes, there are tools out there. So it's the same thing. So you're looking at AI, how does it apply, and automation? I mean, we finished a project meeting, and somebody sent us, and when we finished it, I knew there's a software called Otter.ai, and it can record project meetings. So the artificial intelligence, there is automation. Now also for project managers, something we need to know is that data and numbers are critical. So data on its own is of no effect, but what are the insights that data gives you? So these things are changing. Now, the other part has to deal with, there's a demand for hybrid project management. Now, part of this course we are doing next week, it's built a bit about the PMP, but because we know that there's a hybrid now, what's the demand? A project cannot be linear. It cannot just be a waterfall thing. So sometimes you have, people looking at 2 methodologies, trying to add, okay, PMI with maybe an agile thing. So people are like, okay, why the PMI says first thing is initiation? Okay, but let's build a business case. One of our clients is one of the players in telco space. And we had this thing, we were working with them and looking at building a business case, So the truth is that now there is a demand, and it aligns with what we're facing today. And that also ties into hybrid working engage arrangements. So certain times the resource you have might not be on ground. So as a project manager, you have to be robust to manage a hybrid team. Those you can see and those you can't see. I mean, somebody we're just talking, we're sending a mail and we're like, oh, hasn't this meeting started? And the person coordinating that meeting is currently sitting in Phoenix in the US. So we're like, oh, what's the time? Oh, it's oh, wow, when I said 4, because the person a couple of 2 days ago was in Atlanta, and now time zones have changed. So you have to be used to this hybrid working arrangements. I know in some organizations now, it's 2 days hybrid, but you're a project manager. So you can't insist that, oh, we only have, I know a particular company, you only work 3 times, you agree on 3 times a week. But anyhow, a Wednesday will fall. So you can agree to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You can agree to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You can agree to do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I know in that organization, but in that organization, they say Wednesdays are no working days. Are no meeting days. So as a project manager, you need to look at how to adapt hybrid. Then, of course, softwares are changing. You have Slack, you have Ricky. There are different softwares now. Now, the other part that is critical is that you see, and this is what we tell project managers, there has to be an alignment within your organizational strategy and your projects. Why? Number one, to help you if it's internally funded, so that when you are making a business case for it, you align it with that strategy document. Because certain times convincing a project sponsor requires data, requires information, and also an alignment with what the organization is. I've seen scenarios where certain times a project was initiated in the course of the year, and by the time management was sitting down and planning for the next year, all of a sudden that project became irrelevant. I have cases like that. And the other thing is emphasis on soft skill. Emphasis on soft skill. Now, the truth is that as a project manager, your soft skills are critical. And that's why I did this here, that these are some of the essential soft skills project managers. Now, for the training, one of the things, like I said, is that we're going to look at team dynamics. And so you might not be the project manager, but as a team member of a project, how does this affect
Sincere apologies, everyone. I think he's having a network.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Back. Can you see the slide? Is a slide showing?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. We're almost. So I said, as a PM, how political and culturally aware are you? Or even as a team member? Because you see, it's not all about the project manager. It's also about the team. Because if I work in a project and the project does not succeed, there is an impact on me. And what else do I have? Well, this is a project life cycle. And it talks about the phases. Like I said, now you have a bit of a hybrid. So this is PMI. It goes from initiation to planning to execution to monitoring to closing. Now, if it's an agile framework, it starts from envisioning to speculating to adapting and closing. So the truth is that like people have said, there is no one size fits all. So you see, the essence of the project life cycle is that it gives a practical approach to solve problems as different aspects of the project comes up. Now, these are what we call our project phases, aligns with the others, which is from inception, planning, launch, performance control, and what is called a project closeout. Now, a project closeout is very critical. I remember also when we finish a project, you have an AAR. AAR is after action review. What went well, what didn't go well, where could we have improved, and all that. And that falls into the kind of reports we do in the handover. Now, why is that report critical? Is that if there's another project that is similar, of course, everything is stored up in the records in the electronic. We have an electronic management system, so everything is stored there in the records. And so another project manager can go in there, pick it up, at least have a view of, oh, these are the things we too should also watch out for. So a critical component when it comes to managing projects is especially the closeout phase. Now, why is it also key? One of the things you notice in projects is that towards the ending, the motivation and the drive, and that's where it's critical for the project manager to ensure that motivation is still cuts across. Well, I might skip this, but you see, sometimes we face complex projects, and this is just in a nutshell what you need to do. One of the complex projects I know I faced was when I was a consultant with the federal government amnesty program, and in that project you had so I was working with ex-militants. I mean, it was a very complex project. Why? There were constraints, interdependencies, and multiple stakeholders. And this is a nutshell that helped me diagnose it, look at my team, and agree on, be agile in how you approach the project. So this, I might skip this for time so that if there are questions, but this is very key in delivering projects. There's a risk management framework, which of course will expand during the training. So you look at what are the risks. Certain times in a project, the risks are ongoing. The risks are ongoing. So what happens is that people are faced, and you're asking as a project manager, the project team, how do you keep managing it as the risks are ongoing? And finally, another critical part in delivering projects is this, which is stakeholder management. You know, you see, your stakeholder management is the life wire for the success of any project. So knowing them, analyzing them, managing them, taking action, reviewing, like certain times. I mean, someone called me, we're having a project, there's this organization, and they just found out that one of their critical, this stakeholder was not that critical, but currently this stakeholder is now one of the new House of Rep members. So the dynamics have changed, because now this stakeholder initially was there in the map, but now by May 29th, he's going to start being a House of Rep member. That's why I said review and repeat is critical. So you'll keep monitoring what's happening around your stakeholder map. Okay. Well, so this is all about the training. I don't know if maybe anybody has any questions. But I hope that this 30 minutes was a bit worth your while. You know, data is key. And I don't know if anybody has any questions. And I hope maybe we're able to make some sense in this 35 minutes.
So I have a question.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Chukunonso by name. You made mention of a particular example of due to inflation, how products are being made. They are not up to standard that they used to be. You know, before I know that before the start of any project, there is a goal that is being looked forward to.
Oh.
So
yes, sir.
what happens when you know external factors beyond your personal control affect your project, like inflation, you know, weather, you know, external factors? How do you as a project manager, how are you able to handle those external factors that might affect your project?
Okay, now that question ties around, one of the tools we use in project management, which you're already aware, is the SWOT. SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, if that threat is not captured in the SWOT as at the start of the project, now that's why in projects you have a bit of a tolerance level. There's something in projects which called contingencies. You create a bit of room for contingencies. But when those things happen, this is where your internal stakeholder management is very, very important. So I give a classic case. You're my boss, and now because of inflation, I need $500,000 to do this. Do you know that my relationship with you is key for you to give me an extra $500,000? So that's why we tell the project managers that their political and cultural awareness is very critical, because certain things happen beyond your control. I'll give a classic case. I know, was it last year, 2 years ago, the chief financial officer of an organization got a query. You know why? There was a period the Naira appreciated, and they felt that he should have approved for them. It's a manufacturing company. They felt it was critical for him to have approved for them to
Yeah, breaking, Mr. Toye. I'm sure it's going to connect back. Sincere apologies for that. So before it comes back in, this is just this webinar.
Okay, sorry about that. But let me call you Nonso. Nonso, I don't know if that helps answers your question. How you engage, you must build an internal base. Yes, you must build an internal base with your colleagues in the office and says, because your colleagues in the office will just say, so what do you want us to do? But if you have a good rapport with them, you come up with a collective decision. Yeah. That's why we say carry people along. You must carry your team internally along. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tony.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nonso. Wow.
Okay, Mr. Toye, we have one question here from Ajao.
Okay.
I think that will be the last question for today, just because of our time. I'll just read it. Can we categorize project team as stakeholders? Can we categorize project team as stakeholders?
They are. Because you see, who is a stakeholder? Anybody that can be impacted, either positive or negative, by that project. So you see, your project team, sometimes you see a scenario. I know a particular company, for each year you have like 3 tasks and targets, and you put them in a project team, and they don't feel that this project is part of their tasks and targets. So they might not be giving you the commitment and time you need. So they are stakeholders whom you have to manage. So a project team, yes, are part of your stakeholder management. Like I'll close with this. Certain times, a team member is supposed to, he feels or sees himself as supposed to be the project manager. So you have to manage that person. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tony. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. This is just the tip of an iceberg. We have the main iceberg that is coming up next week, which is the full-blown training on fundamentals of project management training. It's the 2-day training where we are going to talk expressively on project management, and Mr. Toye will be there, available 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at our office in Lagos, Lekki Phase 1. So if you are very much interested in the training, just send a mail to us at training@canadiaconsulting.net. We'll follow up with you after the webinar. It's going to be very, very insightful. It's really going to break everything down in modules for us to understand. So Thank you, Mr. Tony. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming, and we really enjoyed your session. It was insightful and it was really engaging. So I'm going to transfer over to Tolu to just give us a wrap up and closing about the webinar. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Tony, for that wonderful time. I know that the time is not enough. That is why the training, the 2 days physical training is coming up on the 30th and 31st. So quickly, let me just share with us what the training would focus on. I'm sure you can see my slide. Okay. Yeah, I hope we can all see my slide. Okay, so that's all about the training. You can see the modules. We're going to have the overview, like what we have done today, how to initiate, a project, how to plan a project and managing a project. We look at the project strategy. We look at project risk management, okay, and closing projects. Now, who should attend, this training? So it's targeted, towards executives and senior business leaders. We're also expecting new project managers and project officers. We're expecting project team members. If you're involved in any project at all that cuts across different industries, we're expecting you in this training. We're looking also at professionals from various disciplines and industries. We're looking at entrepreneurs and small business owners, HR professionals, business analysts, students with interest in project management. Any student that wants to pursue a career or has interest in project management will be in this training. And also, what will be the benefits? Okay, the benefits are high. Of course, if you attend this training, you are going to have improved project outcomes, okay, because of the knowledge and the skills you're going to gain from that training. We're also, expecting that, you're going to have enhanced communication skills, okay, to, deliver those trainings successfully. Of course, increased productivity. Okay, like I said, every organization has one project or the other, and these projects are run through people. So attending this training will give you increased productivity, greater flexibility in managing your projects and your duties. Then this training will also be a stimulant for international certifications, okay? And of course, you know that these are high demand, global high demand certifications, talking about the PMI, the PMP, Prince2, and so on and so forth. So this training will be a stimulant for those who are looking, into international certifications. Then, of course, the last but not the least is better career prospects, regardless of the industry that you belong or the role that you occupy right now. So it is a game changer for participants that enroll for this training. And of course, the cost for the training is 100,000, but we have arranged discount, 20% discount for 5 delegates or more. So for organizations who have will be sending 5 delegates or more, you're going to have a 20% discount. And also for individuals, who are saying that, okay, they may not be able to afford 100K at a go, there's flexible payment option. So flexible payment option is available. Okay, so please take advantage of this training so that you can meet with Mr. Tony Briggs, one-on-one. It's a physical training that will take place at our training facility at Lekki Phase 1. And please don't say that you don't have money or whatever and all that. Just give us a call or send an email to us, and we will ensure that you are part of that training, to give you, a very, affordable option and flexibility that will ensure that you don't miss it. So I want to thank you, very, very much for participating in this webinar. We're going to have, one more webinars, in this manner that would actually add value, to you. And we hope that when we, advertise and promote those webinars, you will be available, to attend. So thank you so much, firstly, Facilitator Mr. Tony Briggs, and thank you everyone for making out time to be part of this. So we want to see you in this class. So just give us a call, or if you know people that are interested or that that the training would actually be of value for, please let us know, and we will get across to them. So on this note, I want to say a very big thank you for your attendance, and we hope to see you on the 38th and 31st, okay, to be in the physical class. And if you have any questions, if you have any inquiry, please get across to us. Call any of those numbers that you find on your screen, or send an email to us at training@canadiaconsulting.net, and we would respond to you appropriately. So on this note, I want to say thank you very much, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Over to you, Adeshola.
Thank you, Tolu. Thank you for your closing. So just like you said, if you have any questions for us, you can send us a mail at training@canadiaconsulting.net, or you can call the phone numbers. We are readily available to respond back to you. And if you also are interested in maybe paying the money for the training, would give you answers to all your questions. So thank you, everyone. Do have a lovely evening. Thank you for joining.